In 1944, as World War II was reaching its final stages, Romania remained under Hitler's control, yet the population desired freedom from his fascist rule. On August 23, 1944, Soviet troops entered Bucharest, the capital of Romania. With the support of the Romanian population, the Soviet Union began to establish their economic domination. The popularity of Soviet Union domination throughout a devastated Romania helped to ensure the success of a growing Communist Party. The Romanian Communist Party, RCP, became the sole political party, as the communist government was situated. Although ultimately successful, the RCP faced several conflicts with the Soviet Union officials in Romania. Georgiu Dej, leader of the RCP, objected not only to the loss of economic autonomy, but also to the weak future expectations that Khrushchev had envisioned for Romania. Georgiu Dej instead saw a future that revolved around supplying raw materials and agricultural products to more industrially developed satellite states. These economic plans further included endorsing a policy to grant each of the Comecon countries the right to develop their economy in correspondence to their own need. He also stressed the need to expand economic relationships with non-communist countries to lessen dependence on Soviet Republic countries. "1965 shocked Romania as their once great leader perished and was replaced by elected official Nicolae Ceausescu. Ceausescu began to move away from a socialist-based economy. He criticized centralized dictatorships and insisted on separate high state and political positions. Ceausescu even had Western literature translated and published in Romania, though it was highly frowned upon by the Soviet officials who instead promoted sheltering the population from the Western influence. Ceausescu did still hold several principles that were modeled after the Soviet Union, though, such as banning the right to own land, installing collectivization, and having a secret police that thrived on the public sphere. Romania's domestic espionage agency, Securitate, often resorted to cruel tactics to eliminate their opposition. By 1970, the Securitate repression intensified. The population became gradually more aware of bare store shelves, electrical blackouts, and food shortages ravaging the country. During this time, methods of birth control were prohibited, and the Securitate made regular appearances in the places of employment to ensure that women were meeting the 4-child birthing requirements. Due to the horrific hospital conditions in Romania at this time, though, infants often died during birth. However, in an attempt to keep the public morale high, these numbers were never recorded in the child mortality rate, since birth certificates were not issued until several months after the birth. As Nicolae Ceausescu's need for power heightened, so did the brutality of his Securitate. The Securitate continued to operate as a terrorist organization. Censorship became a vital part of Ceausescu's repression. Ion Iliescu, the first secretary and youth minister of the Communist Youth Union, supervised systematic campaigns to neutralize rebellious attitudes of young artists. Students who spoke out against Ceausescu's repression were promptly reproached. Domestically, Romania began to appear like it was veering from Soviet policies, but Ceausescu's oppression and tight control was modeled closely after the Soviet Union's. Examining Romania's external relationships with other nations, it becomes quite evident that Romania struggled to pull away from the Soviet Union dominance. In the 1960s, problems arose between Romania and the Soviet Union when Romania changed its foreign and domestic policies in a way that contrasted Soviet policy. The USSR's response to NATO was a military alliance called the Warsaw Pact. The pact involved Romania, the Soviet Union, Bulgaria, Czechoslovakia, East Germany, Hungary, and Poland. Although Romania's impact on the Warsaw Pact was minimal, their previous actions in military reform and foreign policy proved detrimental to relationships between Romania and the Soviet Union. Their adoption of the military strategy Total People's War for the Defense of Homeland contrasted that of the Warsaw Pact. In 1967, Romania became the first country in the Warsaw Pact to establish diplomatic ties with West Germany. They also maintained full diplomatic relationships with Israel, a country that had little influence or ties after the abolishment of the Warsaw Pact. The government remained communist, though they kept a watchful eye on the United States' support of opposing political parties. In present-day Romania, public unrest began to multiply, and a movement was made to overthrow Ceausescu's strict rule. The revolution grew, which resulted in a public defense trial of Ceausescu. Ceausescu's power was officially gone, and he was sentenced to death for all of the public to witness. Ceausescu's problems arose between Romania and the Soviet Union when Romania's domestic espionage agency, censorship, Ceausescu, censorship,